Sedans were the car of choice back in my day. Sedans were the car of choice back in the day. That sounds a little bit better. You had your Civics and your Accords, your Corollas and your Camrys. Life was great, but that was back then. So it boggles the mind why GAC would introduce an all-new sedan in a time where everybody's going goo goo gaga over crossovers. Yes, granted, sedans have their advantages. They're lower to the ground, better center of gravity, of course. They ride better, they look better. Well, that's a little bit more on the subjective side, but you have to admit that there are some sedans out there that look just absolutely gorgeous. Now, going back, it's just that, well, people today like getting an automobile that can basically do it all. So how then will this 2023 GAC Empow fare in a sea of crossovers and even established sedans? One answer is what lies underneath, because under the hood, you've got a 4-cylinder 1.5-liter turbocharged gasoline engine that produces 168 horses and, get this, 270 Newton meters of torque. 270, which means it's definitely a lot of fun. It's also mated to a 7-speed wet DCT. Now, GAC claims that it can do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 7 seconds, which means that this is the fastest accelerating sedan in this segment in our country. Okay, yes, it does have a few drawbacks. What those drawbacks are exactly, we'll let you know a little bit later, so stick around. Compare prices for your brand new car? Well then, visit AutoDeal.com.ph, select the car that you want, and choose to request for a quote from our network of over 500 official dealer partners nationwide. Within minutes, you'll start receiving offers from the dealers you've selected. All that's left is for you to select the deal that's best for you. Get the best deal on AutoDeal. GAC is angling this to be sportier than your average sedan. You can see it in all their marketing materials. Although we do not have the top-of-the-line GE with the matte fighter green color, which looks awesome, by the way. The overall look of the Empow, even in this mid-tier GB variant, looks fantastic. Korean, Japanese, maybe even European? No, Chinese. And whatever it is that you have to think or say, you can't deny that it looks absolutely gorgeous. That grill, that face, I could kiss it 1,000 times, but I won't because it's a really hot day. If you look at the car, it's got sort of like this hunkering over, hunkering down, like getting down like a sprinter, getting ready to take off. I love that about this automobile. I do too. The LED headlamps with DRLs coming down. Below that, no fog lamps, but there are vents here which allow the air to pass through to reduce drag and better cool the brakes off. Speaking of brakes, you've got discs front and rear. In front of that, you've got 17s wrapped in 255 50 series tires. Above that, you've got a carbon fiber cover on the side mirror with your repeaters there as well. Then there's this beautiful, beautiful chrome accent up on top. And it really does a great job of giving the silhouette of this car, or the shape of this car rather, it just looks so good. Which brings you to the rear. I mean, look at this. It's like a fastback rear. Where have I said that before? Anyway, so it's got a fastback rear and this large pane of glass in the back. Really, they've done a very good job with this sedan. Now up front, it was somewhat of a European automobile or Korean or whatnot. Here, I don't know if it's because of the color of the car or the shape of the lights, but it does, I have to say, it does kind of remind me of a Lexus. Maybe it's the color, you think? Okay, one quick mention. It is an Empow. Now, Jack and I have been trying to figure out exactly why an Empow. He likes to think that the car was named after a little red envelope that has money inside. Very mature of you, Jack. I'm thinking more of it means empowered. Whatever the case may be, we need your comments as to why you think the car is called an Empow. Guess what? funniest one or best answer wins a prize. We'll send you a cap. On to continue with the review. So I mentioned that it's a fastback, and then down below you've got chrome tips here and there. Unfortunately, they're full. They missed out on that because underneath, this is going to be really hot, but underneath the exhausts are here and here. I feel as if they missed out on that. I wish that they had put it up here. You know, made it look kind of nice. And then you've got your rear fog lamp here. The one thing that I'm not a fan of is the third brake light, which is found here. Now, most third brake lights in a sedan are found up here. Here, it looks great, but the function is, well, a little off because it does add sort of like a slight hindrance when you're looking at your rear view mirror. Just slight. So I'm not really sure exactly how people will take the third brake light being so low. Now, when you open her up, oh yeah, you can't open her up with a button. You got to open her up from the key fob, which is there. That's a nice key fob. Hey Jack, check this out. Huh? That's nice. I'm gonna take that home. Open her up, and we don't have exact specifications, but I can tell you it is quite deep. And my assumption is that it is at the very minimum 375 liters of space. The opening is not large enough to carry your average balikbayan boxes to put inside, but the space inside most definitely more than a balikbayan box can carry because it's quite deep. I would put Jack in there, but he refuses because he's not game. Apparently he doesn't love the company as much as I do. Which it's also worth mentioning that these seats open so that you have access to the rear and obviously to load much longer items. Now, when you get into the rear, I will talk about this space a little bit later. First, let me get you through the interior of the automobile, which honestly, it can be a bit busy to some, but it looks absolutely great to me because you've got smooth leather here, then dotted or perforated leather here with some red stitching. You have the same thing here at the backrest, and then you've got the big G for the GAC here. It doesn't look like too much to me. It's just enough flex, I think. Now, not all Empows will be dressed exactly like this. Not all of them have the red accents and whatnot. It really depends on what particular trim or what package it is that you get. Find out more by heading over to AutoDeal.com.ph, where we should have the entire list and all the trims there for you. To continue, toys back here include a vent in the center with faux carbon fiber, okay, with one large vent right there, one charging point, 5-volt USB, no center armrest. You've got red, as I mentioned, seat belts, and then very large bottle holders on either side where the door cards are quite large, and then you've got red, soft red leather here, and then more faux carbon fiber, and then plastic up again on top. It's not too busy. The red accent is just enough to keep it like racy feel into it, a little racy, a little bit sophisticated. The last part I wanted to talk about was space. So you've got a decent amount of headroom. Legroom is nothing great, although there is no center tunnel, so it's easy if you have a third passenger here. But what I wanted to do was show you guys this chair in its position as it is, because this is Jack's driving position, and he's a much taller individual than I am, obviously, half the planet is. He's closer to about 6 feet tall. Now, what I wanted to show and tell you guys is that in this automobile, if a person like myself, who is 5'5", 5'6", right, can still easily fit back here, what I wanted to tell you also is that, see, this car allows you to be able to do that because the wheelbase of this automobile is actually a millimeter longer than a Civic. Get this, this thing is priced like 300,000 Philippine pesos less than where the Civic starts. That's pretty good. Space, space, space. I like space. This is what I mean when I say Jack's driving position. Look at this. My feet, they don't touch the pedals. I'm floating. So I need to actually bend down to start the car, get into my position. Much better. Okay, forgive the air. I'm gonna bring it down just by a little bit because it's just quite warm today. your instrument cluster and your infotainment. So it is one panel that I like because it's not up and in your face. It's done very well. It's big yet small enough at the same time. No, it's big and yet positioned well enough that it doesn't impede your view of the road. In front of you, you have a 7-inch digital cluster that has all the readouts that you need, with your controls on your steering wheel to manipulate that in any way whatsoever. You can even change the color and the motif of that. In the center, your infotainment system is a 10-inch with buttons, obviously it's a touchscreen, with buttons on your steering wheel that you can manipulate this. It does have Apple CarPlay. Unfortunately, it does not have Android Auto. Maybe yet, I'm not sure, but that's what I have for you so far. To continue on with the motif of the entire car, you've got soft touch materials on the dash, which I absolutely love. There isn't much piano black plastics on the automobile, save maybe for the air conditioning controls, which I like the fact that there are physical buttons for it so that you can get to it as quickly as possible. That I like. What I'm not so great at is that this area right here, which is great for putting, let's say, for example, your mobile phone, but they missed out on the opportunity because it's not a wireless charger. Sad. Here, there's full carbon fiber. I don't mind it at all because at the very least, it's not piano black. So this might be the taste of some, might not be the taste of some, but I think we can all agree that at least it's better than putting your fingerprints on it with the carbon. Yes, Jack is agreeing with me off camera. Now, for a car that looks so sporty like this, I mentioned earlier it does have a bit of shortcoming. Yeah, it does. Like, number one, it has a beautiful electronic shifter, right? It's absolutely gorgeous, extremely unique. But there is no plus mode to it. And there are also no paddles on the steering wheel. So for such a sporty automobile, you want a little bit more control of the car. There is, however, a drive mode button that you can cycle through, which you can go from, let's say, for example, from Eco to keep it as economical as possible, fuel efficient. Then you got Comfort to keep all the systems on and as comfortable as you are. Sport if you want to get a little racy. DIY, which is short for Inday, please slow down, you're going too fast. And then there's Sport Plus. But the Sport Plus, unfortunately, is locked at the moment, and you need to sort of like complete these tasks first before you can enter into Sport Plus mode. Or you can just simply call GAC and ask for the activation code. I missed out on that. I thought it was, sana na lang, we'll just leave it na lang that you spend more time with the car. I like that. Of course, it's a learning thing. It does have weird quirks though. One is that the USB ports are found underneath here, so it's kind of difficult for the driver and even the passenger to get to. And then there's the fact of the cup holder, which are, they're deep. They're large cup holders which can be found here. But if you have a tall bottle here, let's see, if you have a tall bottle here, sure, fine. But if you have a tall bottle here, so this thing has to remain open. It's just small quirks like that that really, it could have been executed better. I'm not saying that in general it's not executed well. It is. It's a quite pretty car. It's just there are these small things that may make or break the sale of this particular automobile. I did mention that there are drive modes like Sport, Sport Plus, and whatnot. There's also one other thing inside this car which it might be overkill, but it's nice to know it's there. This thing's got launch control. You want to try it out? Maybe not, we're inside the city. Might be a bad idea. We're going to go for a quick drive now to tell you our impressions of this automobile before we get to our extra. Before doing so, do please like and subscribe this particular video. And if you see fit, do subscribe to our channel because we love creating these videos just for you guys. Okay, very quickly, launch control, hold down the brake, put this guy in sport, gas, go. Damn, that was wheel spin. Oh, wow. Okay, I believe him. Yeah, okay, we're gonna slow down now. Yes, so claim from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, although we didn't get there because this is public roads, in 7 seconds, I believe him, just because of what we just experienced. I don't know if you caught that, but there was definitely some wheel spin there. Not really the best when you want launch control to happen, but still, that was pretty Oh man, even without the launch control, damn, this thing pulls. And this is just a 1.5 liter. Woo! I like it. Oh, that's boy. Maybe I take it off sport. Eco, please. Or how about Inday? No. Eco. No Inday. Okay. That's much better. Okay, so let's get past launch control and talk about how the car really feels like when you're driving it inside the city. As you're moving, the car is very well behaved, obviously. The throttle is a little bit on the sensitive side, meaning that if you are a lead foot driver, you will need to reorient yourself when you step inside the GAC because it's actually quite sensitive. That's one. The second is that when you're at a complete stop, not a rolling stop, but when you're at a complete stop, you notice that when you step on the accelerator, it doesn't bite immediately. There's a slight lull. There's a little bit of movement, but there's a slight lull, which then what happens is that you end up stepping on the accelerator even more. And when you do that, the car all of a sudden just pulls immediately. So now, regardless of what mode that you're in, whether you're on eco or on sport, there is that pull. So we've had the car now for just under a week, and it's taken us that time to really not relearn how to drive, but basically learn how to work with the tickle of the the GAC. Wow, there is that pull, no? Oh, there it is again. It's mainly because that I'm still, my right foot is used to a bigger engine because we just came from a review of a bigger engine, and this one you need to not exactly feather, just understand that every time that you step on the accelerator, it is already a generous amount. So you just have to be patient.
A little more finesse.
Finesse is a good word. The same also goes for when you want to overtake. So right now we're at 40 kilometers per hour, and let's say, for example, I want to accelerate as rapidly as possible. I floor it, and I'm flooring it right now, and it's taken some time. It pulls immediately, but it takes some time before it actually does get going. That lull really creates, well, unfortunately, it's not confidence inspiring, unfortunately, right? What makes it even, I guess, difficult is the fact that there are no paddles inside the car, and there's no plus or minus on the accelerator, or rather on the gear lever. And you want to be able to, truth be told, when you step on the accelerator, you want to be able to change the gears somewhat so that it can bite immediately and get you going. So those are the kind of quirks that, well, like I said, you may need. It may need a little bit of it has a bit of a learning curve, and you may need to sort of like relearn just to be able to put up with its quirks. It's a shame, really, because, well, the motor is so sprightly. It is just only a 1.5 liter, but it's a turbocharged engine that, again, like I mentioned earlier, 168 horses and 270 newton meters of torque. When it gets going, as we've shown you several times, it really does get going. Which brings me nicely to fuel efficiency. Inside good old Metro Manila traffic, Jack and I have actually seen worse. Cebu can get really bad. But anyway, good old Metro Manila traffic, you know what I'm talking about, will get you about 9 kilometers per liter. On the highway, however, it's got better legs at 14 kilometers per liter. But that 14 kilometers per liter on the highway is real world 14 kilometers per liter. We weren't cruising or coasting or whatnot. That was accelerating, slowing down, overtaking and whatnot. It wasn't just sitting on cruise control and seeing what it is that we could really get. The cabin overall is a nice place to be. Wind noise can creep in at higher speeds, like when you're on the highway, but overall it's a very, like I said, comfortable. Suspension works very great. Even though that you're on 50 series tires, it doesn't feel like it's rattling at all. The soft touch all over the cabin, I do really appreciate. It's nice that you can lean on certain things and not feel fatigued as you would inside the automobile. It also doesn't fatigue you over long drives. I like the fact that it's got power seats at this price point. Yeah, power seats. Although it's just for the driver, I still like the fact it's there because it's easy to get to your proper driving position. And then the bolsters are good for when you do want to get racy. Not to a point where you feel like you're in a Sparco chair. No, nothing like that. In fact, there's nothing that feels like a Sparco chair. But they're padded, good cushioning, good bolstering, enough to make you really want to get engaged with the car on the road. It's a shame that we're not on mountain roads right now because that'd be ridiculously fun. The steering is actually quite light. I like that, but it's not like you're not engaged with the road. It's got a good connection with the road. It has a telescopic function on it, so whether you're a tall driver like Jack or a shorter driver like myself, it's easy to find the position that you need to. There are buttons on your steering wheel for your adaptive cruise and your lane keep, which is great technology in a car at this price point. I like the fact that the cruise control is actually adaptive, so you can even use it when you're in crawling traffic, say at like 30 kilometers per hour, to help you move ever so slightly so you don't tire your right foot. That doesn't mean that you should let go of the car completely and let it drive itself. No. Those functions, it's just nice to have. I mean, but it is just really an addition, right? It's advanced driver assist system. It's assisting you. You shouldn't let the car do it all by itself. It's not autonomous. When a car buyer goes out and reaches for a sedan, they know what it is exactly that they're getting, in the sense that it's, well, kind of limited. Hear me out. See, when you buy a crossover, it's the best of two worlds. You've got somewhat of the ride of a sedan, but then you've got the ruggedness, somewhat ruggedness, of an SUV. Now, in a sedan, I don't mean to make this sound bad, but you are limited to whatever it is that the characteristics of that car can do, which is that it's lower to the ground, you don't have ground clearance, but it should ride and drive better, and at the same time, it looks darn good. And you've got that from examples that you see on the road every day. Like, let's say, for example, the Mazda 3, or let's say, for example, a Honda City or Civic, right? Now, this car, in the aspect of being a sedan, it most definitely ticks all, if not most of the boxes that those two cars that I just mentioned did. However, there is, well, somewhat of a slight hiccup in this GAC. The name Empow, or GAC for that matter, doesn't really ring any bells when it comes to car enthusiasts, really, your average car enthusiast. Because, well, let's face it, it's not as if it has a long and storied history, and it doesn't really have ties to motorsport. But as a package, as a whole, it's actually quite compelling. Yes, it definitely does have its drawbacks. Like I mentioned, the transmission, it can get a little iffy. But for the way that it looks, for the way that it accelerates, for the technology that it has inside, and then there's the fact that the introductory price of this mid-tier GB variant is just 1,215,000 Philippine pesos, I'd say that's something to definitely be enthusiastic about.